I'm Daniel Boyle, one of the founding members of Spectrum's Theater Ensemble Providence. Welcome to STE's new video, Providence Wants to Know. I'm here interviewing two of the co-creators of the new play, Fit, Ashley Teague and Gwen Kingston. They came here all the way from New York City to work with us. Gwen and Ashley are Brown MFA graduates. Hi, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, Daniel.
Hey, before we get started, here's a fun fact about your current location, Providence, Rhode Island. Rhode Island was the first of the original 13 colonies to declare independence on May 4th, 1776. It was also the last of the 13 to ratify the U.S. Constitution on May 29th, 1790.
Wow, I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Did you know that Providence has more coffee shops and donut houses per capita than any other city in the country?
I think I did know that.
You didn't, did you really?
I might have.
Okay, well, did you know that at the library at Brown, the Hayes Library, there are 3 books bound with human skin?
That I didn't know.
And what are the books about? Are they?
I don't know. I assume they cover an array of topics and are not just skin related, but we'd have to check it out.
So, anyways, I was just hoping, I figured since you're giving us some information about you, I'd give some information about Providence. So, continue on. Providence wants to know a little bit about both of you. Please, give us some info.
Want to go first?
Who are we?
Who are you?
Who am I? So, hi, I'm Ashley, and I grew up in Washington, D.C. area. I did my undergrad at Emerson College in Boston. I spent 8 years out in Los Angeles working on TV and film, and also working for a theater company called Cornerstone Theater Company that makes community-engaged theater. Then I came back and I did my MFA at Brown, like you said, and I now run my own theater company called Notch Theater Company. And have been really lucky as part of that work to get to partner with this amazing, talented artist, Gwen.
Hi. That's so nice, Ashley.
Yeah. That was my segue.
It's beautiful. I'm from Northern California originally. I grew up in the Bay Area, and I went to UC Berkeley for undergrad. And then I was in California for a few years after I graduated. I started a small theater company called Fault Line Theater out there, which is still going on. And then I came to grad school here at Brown, where I met Ashley Teague and our other collaborator, Marina. And now I live in New York City. Yeah.
And you're acting and writing.
Playwright, acting, and writing. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about the new play, Fit? What is your inspiration in writing this? And did the inspiration come from your time at Brown Trinity MFA?
In a way, it absolutely did, because the three of us who are working on this project together all met here, and Marina originally sort of had the impetus for the idea, which was she read a book called Imbeciles by Adam Cohen, which talked about the 1927 Supreme Court case Buck versus Bell, in which the court decided that a woman could be sterilized against her will if she was determined to be feeble-minded. So that was a really interesting story to us. Who was this woman? How did she come to be the subject of the Supreme Court case? And then immediately something that came up in our research was the fact that sterilization isn't something that just happened back in the 1920s. It's something that's continued all the way along. And Ashley found some interesting facts regarding that even quite recently, sterilizations have been included in plea deals for women to get them shorter prison sentences if they agree to be sterilized. They may face shorter prison times. Recently, I think you said was it a district attorney?
Yeah, a year ago, a district attorney was disbarred for including sterilization in his plea deals. And California prisons were sterilizing women without proper permissions until 2010, it's believed.
Yeah, so when we realized that, it was something that we went, okay, this isn't simply some sort of a grim chapter in our history. It's something that's still very much part of our lives, part of our systems. And that brought us to the broader questions around reproductive rights, who gets to be a parent, who doesn't, and who gets to make those kinds of determinations.
Yeah. So would you like another tidbit about Providence?
Absolutely.
All right. So I mentioned that you're from Brown, and speaking of Brown University, did you know that there are 12 colleges and universities in the state of Rhode Island?
Wait.
Including Brown.
Yeah.
There's also.
Should we try to name them?
If you want.
We're not going to get them all. I know about Johnson and Wales.
Right, RISD.
RISD.
URI,
Mhm.
right?
Pro-
Salve Regina.
Yeah.
Providence College.
Yeah.
There's a military one.
Yeah. The Naval War College. Yeah.
And then I know about one more.
Do you? Doesn't sound like you do.
I don't. Tell us. We only got 5.
Well, I didn't list them all on my thing. I figured I'd just, list off a few. You listed all the ones I've got.
Oh no, we
Yeah.
don't have all.
Well, there
You
are
did.
several others though.
Yeah.
I think this. Did you mention Roger Williams?
No,
There
we
you
Yeah,
go.
didn't.
Roger Williams University.
That's right.
I can think of. I'm trying to think some of the others. But anyways, back to you. Ashley and Gwen, please explain the workshop process and what inspired you to collaborate with Spectrum and Theater Ensemble for this workshop.
Yeah, so we've done one workshop of this play in Nantucket at the White Heron Theater. We had 3 weeks to work on that, 2 weeks to work on that, and we got to sort of put the play on its feet for the first time in front of an audience and have a conversation. And one thing that we learned is, as you know, the play has 2 characters with Down syndrome in it. And one thing we learned is we needed a little more expertise in the room on what it means to live with intellectual disability. And so we were in conversation with Clay, who said, oh, I know all about that. I have a theater company who's on the forefront of that conversation, who's making work about that very issue. Let's partner up and do some work together so that we can have this mutual mentorship process together. And that's what it's been, and it's been really fulfilling and rewarding and exciting to work with these amazing, talented artists at Spectrum Theater Ensemble.
Let's see, you kind of already answered my next question a little bit. How does your play relate to current events?
Aha. Yeah, well, so in addition to these questions around sterilizations, the other piece of the play that sort of fell into place was when we started looking at some news articles about individuals living with Down syndrome who got into these interesting conversations around reproduction. When a couple with Down syndrome wanted to have a baby, is that decision entirely in their hands? Who else gets involved? What are those conversations like? And so part of our story, the part that deals with Dawn and June, is sort of based in those articles that we found about these real families who dealt with these real questions and the different kinds of ways that those got resolved. So I think that's another way in which we're seeing, okay, this is happening, these conversations are happening in the news, these pieces are around, what is there for us to dig into there.
And talking to parents who have children with disability and how hard it has been for them historically to find programs for their kids, to find support systems, to create spaces for inclusion. And so hoping, learning about that from that perspective, and hoping that this play can be part of providing spaces for inclusion and getting people who maybe haven't had that conversation before to think about their proximity.
So in the play, the major historic case you've already mentioned is Buck versus Bell,
Right.
which has yet to be repealed. First, what is this court case? And secondly, how did you come upon this specific one for inclusion into this play?
Right.
Right, so it was part of this book, Imbeciles, by Adam Cohen, and the case was an 8-1 ruling that it was constitutional for states to create laws which allowed women to be, and men, although it was done less commonly, to be sterilized if they were determined to be feeble-minded, and without necessarily specifying how that determination was made, or really anything. It was a very short.
Right, like this is a totally, just like the tests that we're using nowadays, right, are constructs of that other humans have created, so they're totally fallible. And so one thing that's interesting about seeing this play is you as an audience member get to take that test with us and understand how absurd it really is. And during this process, some of the cast members have said, oh, that question is on a test I had to take when I was being played. Maybe you even, did you share that?
I was one of the people who shared that.
Yeah, what was the question? Do you remember which one?
There were several that I recognized.
Yeah.
There were several. One with a picture, for instance.
Yeah.
The very first question, why do we have houses? I remember that.
Right.
I mean, there are a few others, but yeah.
So this test that has sort of, for all intents and purposes, been shown to be was not even created intentionally, you know more about this than I do, but intentionally as a measure cognitive ability, right, or IQ.
Yeah, it's something
It's still,
called
those
the-
questions still stick around.
It was created in France to test French school children to see if they were learning the things that they were meant to be learning by a certain grade level. And it was never intended to be an objective measure of intelligence. And we sort of brought it over here and said, okay, this means if you know these things but not these things, it means your brain is that of a fifth grader, not you have a fifth grader's education or experience of the world based on these standards, but your brain can only do as much as a fifth grader's brain. So therefore, if you are older than a fifth grader, then you are mentally defective.
Well, speaking of court cases, did you know that the Rhode Island State House has the 4th largest self-supporting marble dome in the world? Only the Minnesota State Capitol, Taj Mahal, and St. Peter's Basilica in Rome are larger.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So back at you, ladies. Do you think you'll continue exploring the societal challenges for people with disabilities in future work? And what societal changes do you hope this play can make?
Yeah, so speaking of societal change, that's sort of what I was speaking to in terms of how do we create spaces for inclusion? How do we understand this as a diversity issue, that people with intellectual disability enrich our communities and our lives and make us a stronger nation? How are we putting ourselves in proximity to individuals that we might not normally have proximity to? And so those are questions we hope that the audience, that I hope the audience will ask themselves walking out of this play, and we'll be spending time thinking about.
There's a wonderful documentary we came across that I think is, I would recommend to anyone who's interested in these sets of issues, called World Without Down Syndrome, and it's made by the mother of a boy with Down syndrome who is sort of looking at the current trends around prenatal testing and termination. So in the United States, I believe the stat is still that around 90% of women who discover they will have a child with Down syndrome choose to abort the pregnancy. She goes on a visit to, I believe it's Iceland, where the number is 100%. So 100% of women are tested and 100% of women terminate pregnancies, so they're basically eradicating it. And so her going through this journey of sort of saying, well, I have this son who I treasure and I value and he's a huge part of my life, and why do we think that it's a desirable thing to be moving toward a world without Down syndrome? Why is that the goal? And might that change if people had more experience with, more proximity to individuals with Down syndrome and had them in their lives the way I have my son?
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Providence as much as I've enjoyed learning more about FIT. So FIT is going to be inviting people to the staged readings, which will begin this Friday, March 16th at 7:30, and will also be held March 17th at 2 p.m. All performances are at the Pellett Chafee Performance Center at 87 Empire Street, Providence, Rhode Island. We'll see you there. Tune in next time for Providence Wants to Know.
Providence wants to know.
Tune in next time for Providence Wants to Know.